Shalom family, it's your man Elijah. Thank you for joining me at Sectarian Wisdom again, and as usual, I am a wise, wealthy, rich, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Let's get it, family. And I want to throw in there, like I always say, don't believe nothing I say. Don't even read nothing I'm reading from these books. Well, no, read what I'm reading for these books, but don't believe me just because I'm reading from these books. But read line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little, family. With all thy getting, get understanding. Do your own research. Do your own research. I'm not saying don't believe anything I say, but I'm saying don't just follow me to hell as usual. You can lead your own self to hell, but don't let me lead you there. Do your study. Do your research, family. Don't just throw this away and say that it's not real. And with that said, let's jump into the teaching. Today we're going to learn about the lands of Neptune. Alright, we're reading chapter 8, Lands of Neptune. Man, I see my video is acting up. Anyway, it don't matter. You're not here to see my beautiful face for this portion. We just here to read about the land. Alright, so chapter 8, the lands of Neptune. Nerida, Triton, and Poseidon, the name of their lands that shine in the dark atmosphere that surrounds their circle environment. The Neptunians have had a hard time since their birth, not because they have not been able to adapt to their environment and survive in a climate where vegetation is not abundant, but because the sandstorms and the aridness that encloses this world can be really devastating. For that reason, most of the big cities were created on the shores of their most fertile lands, leaving a large portion uninhabited. Anyway, the Neptunians managed quite well to carry out colossal creations. There are buildings so tall that exceeded twice the size of the known lands. Silence is the faithful companion that will go with you wherever you go in this dark world. As its sun is also very different from those of the vast majority, and is totally opaque. Let me read that again. Known land. Hold on. No. I got a dang. Man. Okay. Anyway, the Neptunians managed quite well to carry out colossal creations. There are buildings so tall that exceed twice the size of the known lands. That's interesting to think. Twice the size of the known lands, that exceeds twice the size of the known lands. So what known lands is that? Is that all the lands in Terra-Infinita from one edge to the other edge? Or is that the known lands as far as they know, or as far as we know? Because that's pretty far off. If that's the case, like, they let everybody know where they are. Like, I don't know. And then how's that work with the mini domes? Anyway, here we keep going. Or maybe every circle doesn't actually have a dome over it, but I believe it does. But just because I believe it don't mean it's true. Anyway, I forget. I regress, family. Let's go ahead. And another thing, it's interesting how it's the lands of Neptune. You got Triton, Poseidon, but their lands are desert. I mean, with all that, I guess I would think with a species whose life is surrounded, well, I guess their history is surrounded by water. You know, water brings life. But then again, I guess it is a history of salt water. So actually, maybe the desert isn't far-fetched, because I would think that most of the ocean floor in a way is a desert, I guess, in some ways, even though it's a desert covered in water. But the sand, anyway, let me get back to the reading. Y'all didn't come here to hear all this, but let me keep reading. Or maybe some of you did some of it. Throughout the time and with the great technological development that they knew how to carry out, nothing of the climate nor of the darkness was a great obstacle for them. There are also large cities with very high constructions, many pyramids, since the Anunnaki were the ones who entered this world and took over their environment after a long time. Recall that the pyramids are key to the Anunnaki colonization that first starts with friendly and supposed technology exchanges between beings. The Anunnaki can be really great swindlers, and lie to their leaders to generate a close bond, and then stick a cold dagger in the back. And then stick the cold dagger in the back. Okay, let me read it. The Anunnaki can be really great swindlers and lie to their leaders to generate a close bond, and then stick the cold dagger in the back. Overnight, the Neptunians were left with nothing, as the Anunnaki had planned everything from the beginning and everything went as expected. It is said that this is one of the first lands where they penetrated and ended up colonizing. The natives of these lands could not cope with any technology like that, although we can assure that it was still in full development. But by that time, the Neptunians had opened a long spiritual and developmental path focused on real personal and spiritual improvement to cross the Great Dome after transcending matter. But it is not that they left the defense to chance, but they had developed a great military power that did not end up serving against the colonizers. Although they did get a big scare when they rebelled. In the beginning, the Neptunians accepted defeat, but as these beings were used for certain tasks within their own lands that obviously ended up directly benefiting the Anunnaki bosses, they rebelled against them, generating several pockets of fierce fighting. Then the casualties on both sides began, and everything got out of control in the center of these lands. Triton became the epicenter of absolute chaos. The blue blood of the natives was spilled in great quantity. The Anunnaki are still today their great enemies, and that after years they reached an agreement to withdraw from their lands. You know, when they said their people have blue blood, it kind of reminds me of the movie Fifth Element, and the lady who was an opera singer, and when she got shot, she had blue blood. But then again, they say we have blue blood, it just turns red when it hits the air. So today the Neptunians live in peace and with a high development in technology that benefits their environment. Their spiritual growth. Okay, hold on. Today the Neptunians live in peace and with a high development in technology that benefits their environment, their spiritual growth, and they are in peace with the neighboring lands and races. Like I said, family, sometimes it's not me reading horribly. This is, like I said, this book is translated from Spanish, so sometimes the sentence mechanics and how they put it together, it kind of doesn't make sense. They run together or they forget commas or whatever. But according to the story, they prepare in silence for any new attack. But according to the story, they prepare in silence for any new attack that could come from the nearby Anunnaki lands or other lands that could generate some danger for them. Do the Neptunians travel to other lands? It is said that they travel to other lands to investigate how other races live, to generate certain links, and to be able to explore their environment. But it is said that they have not visited the known lands or spoken to any leaders at any time. Although they do know the lands of Mars and have been able to make contact with the human custodial colony located there, as I commented in previous paragraphs. The Neptunians are a race of dark blue color. They feed on local fruits since based on their system they cannot ingest a great variety of foods. They do not eat meat and they have a certain friendly relationship with the custodians, although it is not well known why, since they are generally beings that always sought their freedom and independence. Maybe they cool with the custodians because they, basically they trying to plan to join against them against the Anunnaki. From my understanding, I don't think the Anunnaki and the custodians are great friends. They just work together out of convenience, from my understanding. So, and then once again, I've said before, I'm not even necessarily sure if the Anunnaki are bad, because a lot of who we've been taught are bad are actually good, and who's actually good, they're actually bad, in my opinion. And actually, not my opinion. This is the truth for a lot, especially when I talk about idols in today's world. What else? Once again, I want to bring up how they talk about how the Anunnaki, wherever they go to invade, they leave pyramids. Once again, the show Stargate, a big predicator of the Goa'uld and Stargate was, leaving pyramids everywhere. But then once again, if you go back to the sealed book of if you go back to this book, the book of knowledge, the keys of Enoch, it speaks about how the pyramid, actually the building blocks of life, if you have a high powered magnifying glass or whatever they call the scientists use to look at amoebas and cells and stuff, if you have one of those very powerful scopes, you can see the building blocks of life, that they're in the forms of triangles, I guess it's saying, or pyramids or something like that. So, but yeah, that's the end of this chapter, family. Next time we're gonna get into the lands of Uranus. Anyway, just a little jokey joke. I know we've heard that a million times since like elementary school. But anyway, family, as usual, I'm a wise, wealthy, rich, celestial being who is loved by the Most High Creator. We got it, family. I'll catch you later. Thank you for joining in. Be at peace. Shalom.